This is Josie coming on live for my Sunday Live at 5. Hi, hi, welcome. Who's out there? My name is Jo Zuleika, and I am founder of the Facebook group Women Who Lead with Heart and the free workshop, weekly workshop, Create More Confidence for Women Leaders. Coming on live with a really special training today about how to get unstuck. If you're joining me live, give me a hi, hello, a wave. And if you're coming on for the replay, give me a hashtag replay. I always love knowing who's out there. This is going to be a short, tight, two-part training that I hope you'll find yields some good juice for you to get started on getting unstuck. If you feel stuck, if you have something in mind that you'd like to shift in your life, if there's some momentum that hasn't moved that you're really eager and yearning to shift, chances are it's like torture. Wanting something, yearning for something, longing for something, wishing something to be different, wanting different circumstances, wanting a different outcome in your life is a pleasure pain formula. It's something that when you think of it, it absolutely enlists your passion and your hopes, but almost immediately afterwards, those hopes are dashed as you feel so far away from accomplishing it and stuck. I call it torture. I think it's psychic torture. So if that resonates for you, stick with me because I think we deserve so much more than that, than to be suffering and struggling and sort of drowning in this feeling of being stuck. I want to give a big shout out to Sue. Hey, babe. Hi, Jamie. Hi, Chan. Thanks for joining tonight. Nice to see you guys joining live. This is sort of like a one-way coaching broadcast, but if we were actually in conversation, we'd really be able to start looking at why do you feel stuck and what do you want to have shift in your life. But I'll give you some general tips that I think will help you, even if I can't hear your voice or know what your personal situation is. Are you ready? Let's get started. So, the first thing I want to call out is first, let's just really get real with why do we feel stuck? Why are you stuck? What is it that is feeling stuck in your life? For so many of us, it's so uncomfortable. We don't even really want to approach it or look it in the eye, and we sort of avoid the stuckness. The thing that we know we want to shift just gives us such a sense of dread, or we're repelled by the inertia of it that we walk around it like a big boulder in the path. So, my first question to you is can we just get real with what the thoughts are about why we are stuck? Chances are you know. If you ask your heart, if you ask your inner wise self, why am I stuck? You probably know the answer. We just need to get real and go there. So think about your own personal circumstance and why you're listening into this training and ask yourself, why am I stuck? What has me staying still or stagnant or not shifting and growing in the ways that I hope? Chances are deep down you know the answer. There's just a reason why you're not going after the solution. And I think I know why. For so many of us, the reasons that we don't go after the solution to our own stuckness, our own being immobilized by our circumstances, our own resistance to change is fear. It can sound like, I'd like to leave my job, or I'd like to leave this marriage or relationship, or I'd like to move to a different town, or I'd like to try a new career, or I'd like to do something radically different, but I'm sort of, kind of, really deeply afraid of the unknown. Or I'm kind of sort of deeply afraid to lose security. Like that which I know, the position that I have, the city that I live in, this family that I'm a part of, the relationships that I'm in, at least it's known. And our brain hates change. Our brain resists something that is a radical change. So it's scary for us to think of losing the known or losing the security. It could also be a real, a rational thought. Like if I were to leave a marriage that had financial security, that would feel threatening to my financial well-being. Or if I was leaving a job that had benefit security and health care and other really tangible benefits, that could feel threatening because not only am I leaving something for the unknown, I'm leaving something that is really secure and makes me feel safe. We are sometimes afraid to make a change because we don't know how. We don't know how to write a book. We don't know how to become a TED Talk speaker. We don't know how to start our own business. We can get really, really stuck in the not knowing how. Or we can feel like, the circumstances just aren't quite right. That we'd like to make a change, but I don't know enough yet, or I need to be more prepared, or I should go back to school first, or I need to get a degree, or there are some circumstances that need to be ironed out, or some things that need to be in place first. So we hesitate. We also can just have this deep-seated fear of being afraid to fail if we try something new, being afraid to expose ourselves, to be humiliated for failing, to be rejected by our friends or family, to be laughed at. So many of us are afraid to go big because we're afraid what other people will say, which is fear of rejection. And that leads to us realizing that we just don't believe in ourselves. That's why we're not taking action against this being stuck, is that somehow deep down inside, we don't believe that we'll be making it on the other side, that no matter what, we won't fail, we won't be humiliated, we won't be rejected. We won't end up without any security. We won't be unsafe. We don't trust that that's true. So that means deep seated, deep down inside, there's something that we don't believe about our own ability to give that safety to ourselves. Does this resonate for you? Is this feeling true? So that's where all of a sudden our internal doubts, our reasons for why it's not smart or reasonable or rational or the right time will take over, where feeling not ready or that we need to be more prepared will be the louder voices in our head. And we'll be easily feeling like it's just not the right time or that we're not good enough or a combination of both of those things. And this is where the deck is stacked against us because our brain wants us to believe that. Our brain wants us to not risk, to not change everything, to not upset the status quo because that feels emotionally risky. And our brain doesn't like that. Our brain doesn't like overwhelm. So our brain will keep us in inaction because somewhere deep in there, it feels safer to do nothing and to stay status quo, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it feels like torture on some levels, than to risk and change everything for the unknown. So if I can just show you what our brains do, that might be really liberating for you to know so that you don't feel like it's your fault. It's really your brain's fault that our brains want to keep us safe and secure. It likes the status quo. It doesn't like to upset the current circumstances for the unknown. And if you know that, that might be helpful for you as you take steps to break loose from whatever's holding you back. Okay, how are we doing? Are you tracking? I'm saying that in the end, it is safer for us to not try, to not do. And in that way, our stuckness is a choice. It is our choosing, our unconscious choosing of the current circumstances rather than making different choices that would change things up. And I know this can be kind of triggering to hear this because you might feel like, well, either it's not really a choice, it's kind of the way it has to be, or I don't know what other choice there could be because the alternatives feel like they're way too risky and that just doesn't make sense. And I just want to notice that when we feel triggered by some claim that we're trying to stay safe, let's just be curious and wonder, is that true? All right, are you ready for some training around how you might become a little less stuck? What the two things I have in mind, two different tactical tips that you could try to shake things up and to be unstuck. And the first one is this. Ask yourself, if I were to make steps towards that new job, that new career, that writing a book, that becoming a speaker, that going big, that, um, you know, trying a new skill, trying a new relationship, what's the worst that could happen? This is really important work to do to challenge your brain that's afraid and ask her, what are we afraid of? And name it. It's usually a feeling. I'm afraid that I would fail. I'm afraid that I'll look like a fool. I'm afraid that I will somehow come up a loser. I'm afraid that I will look stupid. I'm afraid of what other people will say. I'm afraid that other people will judge me. And I just want to call out all of that is just an emotion anticipated in the future. It's not real. It might become real. Maybe you will fail. Maybe you will have challenging circumstances befall you. Maybe you will feel embarrassed, but it's just a feeling. When you have a feeling, you realize it can be really uncomfortable, but is it any more uncomfortable than what you're feeling right now with the not doing the thing, with the not going after your dream, with the feeling like you're treading water or standing still or not making good on the promise of your life? Chances are the worst that could happen is actually happening now. You're suffering because you're not trying that new thing. You're not growing. You're not stretching. You're not seeing yourself evolve and being proud of that self. And so the fear that you're harboring of what would happen if you made the change is no worse. That potential fear coming true is actually likely not worse than the discomfort and the pain and the inaction that you're feeling right now is bringing you. Can you see where they might be almost exactly the same? Like, let's say, okay, I do quit my job and I have all this financial security and all of these benefits and this stability, and I go for the other thing. And what if it doesn't work? Just answer the logical, the real rational question. If that doesn't work, well, then I would find another job. And if that didn't work, I would still have another job. Or if I get fired, I would have to find a job. How is that any different than right now, where with you not liking your current job, thinking, I have to find another job? They're actually the same circumstances, just one is familiar and feels safer for your brain to accept and endure than the other that is unknown. But the unknown is where we want to challenge ourselves because we'll feel so much better when we're growing and expanding and trying new things and growing into our potential. Are you tracking? Does this resonate for you? So you want to ask yourself, what would the worst be? And what would I do if the worst happened? And chances are you'd survive. It would just be an uncomfortable feeling, like the uncomfortable feeling that you have right now. And I love this quote, you cannot fail if you do not quit. So let's take me. I'm trying to be an entrepreneur. I'm starting my own coaching business. Actually, I started my own coaching business years ago and I'm growing it every day. But there's always this risk there, like, will it work? Will it grow? Will I have clients? Will people come? Well, what's the worst that could happen? Maybe this week I don't find a new client, but I'm not failing if I'm not quitting. I just keep going. I keep going. I keep showing up. I keep offering value. I keep coaching my clients. I keep finding new people. I keep sharing of my gifts. I stay on message. I cannot fail if I do not quit. I just keep going. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Like, you don't have to worry about what if because there's never some finish line. You just keep going. So it might take you longer. So what? You're working towards your dream. All right, so that was the first tip is really asking yourself, what's the worst that could happen? And visit that with courage and notice that you would survive. You would survive any outcome and you could just keep going. And then the second tip I have for you is this idea of the future self. Imagine your future self having achieved whatever your dream is. She's not stuck anymore. She's not overweight. She's not suffering with bad habits. She's not in bad relationships. She has the job of her dreams. She's living the type of life that she longs to live 10 years ago, and she's you now. Imagine that. What if your future self, who does it, who does the thing, who has a TED Talk, who has a thriving career, who is an entrepreneur, who started her own cottage industry, who did the thing that you dream of, imagine she's here now and she did it. And knowing that with certainty, knowing that it will work out, what would she have you do today? What would she say to you now, your future self? She would probably say, there's no need to be afraid because you're going to make it. And even if it took longer than you thought it was going to take, you figured it out. She would say, be confident, try new things, tolerate risk. It doesn't matter that you don't know how. No one knows how. We just start taking action and working our way towards the general direction that we want to be. We may not have the GPS that takes us exactly to our destination, but we can go west. We can go in that general direction and keep going and keep going and keep honing in and keep finding exactly where we want to be heading and exactly what the right fit is and meeting more people and taking more action and noticing new thoughts and learning new skills. We keep going. That's probably what she would have you do. If you think about the you today, the you 25 years ago didn't know how you could become the you today. She had no clue that you would be doing what you're doing, living where you're living, being in the relationships you're with, having the things that you have, all of the things. If you were to flash forward from 25 years ago to see you today, you would probably be amazed and wonder, how did you do that? How did you buy a house? How did you move to that city? How did you find that partner? How did you start working that job? How did you become in that industry? And you would say, it just happened. I just kept taking steps. I just kept, meeting people and evolving and taking opportunities and talking to other people. And this is where I'm at now. Does that resonate for you? It's not like there's any rule book that we've all had that follow that tells us how to be a success. No one really knows how. That's kind of the big secret. So that's the future you that you want to be listening to, not the future you who doesn't do the big thing and who says you should stay small and scared and you shouldn't take any steps and you should be overwhelmed with the fear or the resistance or the questions that you just don't know how to even get started. I would challenge you to say, if you're really locked up and thinking, I know there's something more for me, but I don't know what it is, then spend time every day asking your heart, what would it look like if I did know? What would be here if it was good? What would my dream have in it? You can name some things. I would live in a place that's warm. I would live by the ocean. I would see the sun every day. I would be fit. I would at least take exercise every day. You could start answering these questions if you're not sure even what you want. And then if you do know what you want, you can challenge yourself to take 10 actions that would get you closer to that outcome. And what if it took you 10 times the actions? What if you want to be an actor and you're afraid of rejection, so you don't ever go to, tryouts, you never go to an audition? Well, you're never going to get there. But if you accepted that maybe you had to take 10 times the auditions to finally make it, then you would accept that. That means that, 9 times of the auditions would be rejections, and then that one time would be the time that you actually put it all together and had the confidence and had the experience and had the connections. So this is not just shining sunshine on it. It isn't always easy to go after our dreams, but I'm saying it's harder to not do it at all. It's harder to stay stuck and it's harder to stay in inaction and not challenge ourselves to figure out what's holding ourselves back and start taking steps from an empowered, curious, yes, you can be afraid, but also to double dare ourselves because it's what we're meant to do. We're meant to live our purpose. How is all that sounding to you? I'd love to hear your comments. It might not be easy, but that's what we're here for. And if you want more tips and tactical tricks and some one on one coaching, you know where to find me. That's what I got for now. Go well.